is 2023. And what I like to do at the end of every year is talk about it. This is a revolutionary new idea where I will look back on the things that happened in the previous year and talk about them, and then also rank a couple of them too. I just thought of this and I thought I should do it. Like, it would be a great video. Here's how this video is gonna go down. I didn't play actually a lot of video games. I love video games a lot. And there are a bunch that I did not play. The two big Game of the Year contenders, Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok, are games that I didn't even touch in 2022. I'm gonna play God of War soon. It's just that like it's already 2 months out, and what am I gonna pay full price for a game 2 months after it came out? That's insanity. I'm not gonna do that. It's gotta go on sale soon. I'll get it. Elden Ring, that's like a couple years from now for me. That's just how I go. That's just how I do it. So I'm gonna talk about as much as I can talk about. I will talk about the games I haven't played briefly in this beginning segment, and then I'm gonna talk about big news stories that happened over 2022, because I find that very fun as well, to talk about the big things that really shook up the gaming landscape in 2022 and what might they mean for the future. And then I'm gonna talk about the games I actually played, culminating with my top 3 recommendations of the year. Because I didn't play a lot, but I played 3 really good games, so I'm gonna talk about those. Let's start. So if I'm gonna be completely honest, I felt like 2022 was a bit of a slow year, except for Elden Ring. That was incredibly anticipated and finally came out, but it's just like, that came out in February, and the rest of the year was just like, what are we gonna do now? Elden Ring came out and it was amazing and it didn't have any problems. That was the fear, like it could come out and be buggy, could be broken, could be bad. Nope. It was everything everybody wanted it to be, apparently. I didn't play it. Sounded really great. So the rest of the year was just like, I don't know, might there be surprises or something? Because it seems like we knew what was coming. And then it turned out we did. There were really no surprises in 2022. So that's Elden Ring. Let's talk about another game I didn't play, a big PlayStation title, Horizon Forbidden West. I 100% completed Horizon Zero Dawn. I even did the extra trophies they added later, beating the game under 6 hours, new game plus hard mode. I had no desire to play the sequel at all. As soon as they showed gameplay that was more or less the same, and story, cutscenes, dialogue, which was exactly the same, I just was like, nah. Sometimes you like a sequel because it's more of the same, because you liked the first one. But the thing is, the first one was kind of fun. I liked the combat quite a bit. The story was like bad, especially the way it was given to you. I just did not want to explore that world again. I didn't think it was necessary, and then when I heard the reviewers talk like, the dialogue's kind of bad, yeah, but the gameplay's fun, I was like, no need. And then this game didn't make a splash. It's so weird that it's like one of the biggest PlayStation titles. It's like up there. It's like Last of Us, God of War, Horizon. But who cares about Horizon that much? It doesn't seem like anybody really does, but it's just like it sells. Good for you, I guess. Jump over to Nintendo. Pokemon Legends Arceus also was a big drop. Hard to believe since then that we've gotten to another giant Pokemon game. They just never stop. They just churn these out so fast. And that's why I kind of gave up on Pokemon a couple years back. Could you guess if it was after playing Pokemon Sword? Yeah. Pokemon Sword was my realization that Pokemon has really been on a downward spiral since like Gen 6, and I've gotten every game that's come out, and I just enjoy them a little bit less until finally it just culminated with Sword being so disappointing. And here we are, a game that's trying something new and really appealing to my nature of actually just wandering around and catching Pokemon, and I still didn't want to. I just felt so burned from Sword that I was just like, even if this game's good, I don't even care. Screw you, Pokemon Company. Like, I know it's Nintendo probably forcing them just to keep going. Like, gotta be a full-scale Pokemon game every single year. It's you can't make reasonable games that fast. And then they made Legends and Violet and Scarlet in the same year. Let's talk about that. For all intents and purposes, aside from the massive performance issues, Pokemon Violet and Scarlet seems to be what Sword and Shield should have been. They got a couple more years of work to really make it a fully fledged open world Pokemon experience, and it sounds like everybody loves it, except that it barely works. And you know, some people blame it on the Nintendo Switch being really old. It's not that. It's optimization. They didn't have enough time to make it work. Simply put, like obviously, they released another open world Pokemon game in the same year. So hey, I'm not gonna diss you for enjoying the Pokemon games that have come out. They look like the best Pokemon has been in a while, even though the frames drops to like 1 a second. But if they're fun, man. Good for you. I think I'm just on a big Pokemon hiatus for a while. That's just me. I don't even know why I wrote this one down, Nintendo Switch Sports. I think I just wanted to talk about how this kind of keeps happening whenever Nintendo makes a sports game, usually Mario Sports past few years. People hype it up like it's gonna be a big deal. Like, oh my god, they're making Mario with golf. Oh my god. But in this case, it was really pandering the nostalgia of the Wii Sports crowd. I mean, I remember playing Wii Sports way back in 2000 whatever. That really did capture a special memory. But like, why would you expect this to make you feel the same way? It's really, when you boil down Wii Sports, it's a very basic, simple game. If it wasn't for the waggle and stick that we all got and were amazed by, that game would be nothing. And Nintendo Switch Sports is proof of that. The game's nothing. They couldn't even put golf in it until like almost the end of the year. Way after people shut up about this game. Like, nobody talked about this game when it came out, and then they were like, hey guys, we got golf. We got golf. Did anybody play golf? Did anybody get that leg strap thing that lets you play soccer better or something? I don't know. It's just a waste of time. And also, I'll loop in Mario Strikers Battle League. You got the tennis, golf, soccer. All 3 sports. They were all hyped up. For one reason or another, the golf had RPG elements, like, whoa, they're gonna do an RPG. The Aces had like a thing, it looked like it was gonna have a cool story, and Battle League was simply just the return of the really cool Strikers Charged art style, but they all ended up being generic sports games. Like, stop buying them. Just stop buying the sports games, man. They're not that cool. This is four Switch games. The Mario sports games and then the Nintendo Switch Sports. All the same exact story of overhype and then pure disappointment. Not even updating the games with cool content post-launch. It's just nobody cared about them. Stop buying them. What's the next sports game they'll do for Mario? They'll do baseball. They'll do Mario Sluggers. And there'll be some reason why everybody will be like, this is gonna be cool, this is gonna be so big, and then it'll come out and be the lamest thing. Just don't buy them. Here's an interesting one. Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. We're on a big Nintendo train. This was so strange because it was like dead before it came out. There was no hype. I don't know a single person who even talked about this game. It came out. People don't know that it came out. What happened? It's Fire Emblem. It's supposed to be big. Maybe people are realizing that the Warriors games are very, very, very boring. I don't know. Maybe people are getting tired of Fire Emblem. Maybe people just really wanted the next Fire Emblem. But I'm seeing no hype for Fire Emblem Engage, which is due out like now, this month. Is the Fire Emblem hype dying? I'm all for it. Live Alive. Not a new game, but basically a new game. I was really hyped. I plan on playing this game. You know, when you're playing a million RPGs in a year with the Final Fantasy thing that I'm doing, it's like, I don't know if I can really cut time for Live Alive. And it was like $60 also. Guys, come on. No, I will play Live Alive. I'm excited to, but it'll be probably like after the Final Fantasy thing. Speaking of, Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. This game got really made fun of when it was revealed, but I was in day one. That first trailer with the chaos and the edgelord and the bald guy going like, we gotta kill cat, just bringing such an American action movie attitude into Final Fantasy is a dumb idea, but it's one of those dumb ideas I can't get enough of. It's clearly not taking itself seriously, but it seems like it is, and that's what makes it hilarious. This, in terms of Final Fantasy games I still have left to go, this is one that this isn't my top hype games to get to. They've been releasing DLC that's like expanding on the lore. There's like a Final Fantasy II themed DLC that just came out. I'm so excited to dive into that game, like seriously. If I didn't hear anything good or bad, is it good? I don't know, we're gonna find out sometime later. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Apparently this was great. All I heard was good things. People who were disappointed in 2 seem to think this was way better, but still doesn't top the original. I'm happy for the Xenoblade fans. You know, Monolith Soft, they're a real deal developer. They kind of just make good stuff. They spend 5 years making a game, comes out and it's great. Like they're reliable. I did play Xenoblade Chronicles Remastered, Definitive Edition, whatever it was called, plus Xenoblade Chronicles Future Connected. I didn't get the hype. I was not a fan of the battle system in that game, and the story was pretty good. It was not a mind blower like everyone said it was, so I didn't ever bother with 2. Probably not gonna bother with 3, but you know, congrats to the RPG heads who got a good game this year, I guess. Splatoon 3. Well, they did Splatoon again. It has more guns, it has more maps. They did the salmon run again, but a little bit more. They have a slightly better campaign. It's another Splatoon. I got the first game on Wii U. It was fun. Nothing they ever put out appealed to me except for that Splatoon 2 Octo expansion, like a fully fledged campaign game, but it was a DLC, and I didn't have 2, and I was not about to buy 2 just to play a DLC for like $80. They might do it again for 3. That's cool. I can't get into the Splatoon thing, man. It's the same game with a little bit more. I got my fill with the first one. The Last of Us Part 1. Something happened the past few years where remakes of old games would come out and they would cost more than the original. Like it feels like it used to be an unwritten rule where like, you make a remaster, it's gonna be like $40. It's gonna be a budget title. But they apparently remade the game from the ground up. Why did they bother doing that? How many years did that take? I hope not too many, because this is Naughty Dog. They're supposed to spend a long time making new games, and they're like still developing the multiplayer Last of Us that was promised in June of 2020. We're just not gonna get a real Naughty Dog game for like 5 more years, are we? Yeah, I don't need to say much about the $70 remake of a remake controversy. I think everybody's already been on their sides. Cursed to Golf. I'm just gonna highlight a little indie game here. I do love golf games. Golf indie games. They're always fun. They're more fun than the Mario Golf, you know? This was on my list. I don't know why I never got to it. I just never did. I'm gonna get to it. Promise. I made a comment to the developer on a video about Cursed to Golf that I said, oh my gosh, this is gonna be a day 1 buy for me. And he responded like, thank you. And I didn't buy it. I still didn't buy it. So I apologize, Liam Edwards, is that your name? I will buy your game. You know, I got so many Final Fantasies. Bayonetta 3. Controversial. A lot of stuff happened in those weeks when the game came out. But ultimately, the game ended up being, The fan base is a little divided. I'm not a Bayonetta fan. I actually did buy the new retail physical release of Bayonetta 1 because I figured I'll probably get into it someday. Then the voice acting thing happened and I felt a little weird. I was like, I don't know, should I cancel this? I'm probably not going to play it. And I canceled it. And then it was like, well, no, actually, Helena Taylor is kind of lying. And I was like, all right, well, I still don't care. So I just kept it canceled. Will I ever play Bayonetta? Maybe never at this point. If the third one really wasn't even that great. And now they're doing this weird origin indie looking game that does not, I'm sorry, that game does not look super interesting. I'm wondering like what Bayonetta fans are looking at this and going like, yeah, more of this. It doesn't look anything like Bayonetta. I don't know. It won Best Action Game, that's cool. Here's a big one, Sonic Frontiers. Oh, one of my biggest videos of the year was a Sonic video where I talked about Frontiers a little bit. I said I might play it if it got like a huge reaction and people told me it was really good. I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell how good it was. I think the general consensus is it is good. It's not like a mind blower, but for Sonic that is a massive W. The thing is, when you talk to like Sonic fans, no matter what, they're gonna say it's the best thing they've ever seen. So I really don't know how to judge these people's opinions. I don't know anybody who isn't a Sonic fan who played this, so I really need to... Maybe I gotta play it for myself to really know. I don't know if I'm gonna do that, but it does look cool. God of War Ragnarok, like I said, on the list. I'm not even gonna say much about it. I'm gonna play it like in a couple weeks probably. Finally, surprise release at the second half of December of last year, Sports Story came out. Sports Story is the much anticipated sequel to Golf Story, a golf indie game that I really loved and was not alone. Sports Story was really hyped. I was about to pull the trigger and buy this game as soon as it came out, and then apparently it's the Cyberpunk 2077 of indie games. Broken, no frames, glitches galore, corrupted saves, every bad thing about a rushed AAA game, except it's an indie game. And I'm like, you can't do this. Indie games are not supposed to be like this. But it did. But it do. But sports game do. And then people found a hidden developer room, like a secret room you can only access by hacking. And it's full of people complaining about how the game was rushed. Apparently, some executive ordered this game to be out, and that was just it. Whether it was done or not. And it clearly was not. This is so disappointing. I was so hyped for this game. Will they even fix it in patches? Is this a lost cause? Was all these years of waiting wasted? I don't know. That's a story for another day. Still developing, I guess. Oh, I didn't mention Stray. You know, the cat game that won Best Debut Indie and Best Indie. Why is it allowed to win both in the first place? I'm done with that cat game, man. I wasn't planning on playing it, but now I'm really not gonna play it.
Worst concept for a game! Stray! Oh, a game about a cat. Wow, did you just make the first thing you came up with what was in your room?
Yeah, what's the sequel gonna be, chair?
Now let's get into some video game news stories, some hot button issues that went on during the video game industry year of 2022. Let's get one of the biggest ones right away. Microsoft acquires Activison. Or do they? So whenever you talk about anything gaming news, if it involves one of the big three, I feel like it always divulges into console war nonsense. Like you get labeled, oh, you just hate Xbox. You're a Sony guy. You just like Sony. That's why you're mad at this. No, dude. I just don't like when a monopoly buys a monopoly. That's bad. Have you played that game? So it does feel pretty validating when the freaking government gets involved and says maybe this shouldn't happen. That's right. Joe Biden. The FTC, on order from Joe Biden, says this might be something we have to stop. I got the quote right here. Stop Microsoft from gaining control over a leading independent game studio and using it to harm competition in multiple dynamic and fast-growing gaming markets. I know Microsoft has done a lot to muster a lot of goodwill from the gamers with their Game Pass and their FPS boosts and their backwards compatibility and all that stuff. People seem to be going on to, hey, Microsoft's pretty good, they care about the gamers. But if you think this deal is actually a positive thing, you gotta go outside or something. This benefits nobody except Microsoft. Every year, I think Microsoft is going to finally start giving us games for their video game console, and every year, it's just more of this. I think they realized that they just don't have the talent or the studios to make good games that people want that aren't just Halo again. So they just keep buying more in hopes that this will boost them enough. But they've been buying companies for so long, and we still haven't seen any games come out of that that's worth buying an Xbox for. Xbox has been forced to come out and make a whole big statement about why this is actually good. It's worth a read for this article, like, because, you know, they have to make a statement. They have to make themselves look like they're not just trying to suck money out of people with this deal. One of the main reasons they argue this would be beneficial to gamers is it would create a more competitive space in mobile gaming. So they quote that this would be good because we would finally have a hand in mobile gaming where a couple of big players already dominate, by the way. They're just whining that they don't have, oh, we're not making billions of dollars off of Candy Crush like everyone else. So again, they can't even develop their own Candy Crush, so they just decided, you know what? We're Microsoft. Let's buy Candy Crush. It's like the FTC is saying, you're just doing this and you'll start to make so much more money than you already are. And they're like, well, we're not making that much money in mobile gaming, so it's fair. Shut up, man. You own every single PC that people play video games on. When will it end? And when will any of these deals start actually benefiting gamers? They've bought so many tiny studios. They've bought Bethesda. EA is practically in their pocket. They've now bought Activision, which is Blizzard and also King. Like, they're talking about mobile gaming. What about like all the MMOs and all of the stuff Blizzard does? The fact that Microsoft certainly has a hand in online gaming. Now they have Overwatch and all the other things that Blizzard does. Like, Activision is so massive. This is, what was it, $69 billion? Bro, this is not good for people. This is like Disney buying Fox. And you know what? I do wonder that if they did that a couple of years later, like during the Biden administration, I wonder if they would have fought that too. Maybe you guys just wait for the next Republican president and he'll just let this happen. Obama. And now we're getting political. We should move on. Oh, remember this one? The Grand Theft Auto 6 leak? That was a crazy couple of days. Is there even any... There's gotta be footage online still, right? Like, there's no way... You can't just wipe that stuff from the internet. That's gotta be all over YouTube. And if it's not on YouTube, it's on Reddit. It's on something, right? A literal child was responsible for what might be the biggest leak in video game history? Because it wasn't just telling us it exists, man. It's the entire build of the game. I don't know how this happened, but it was insane. I kind of feel bad for Rockstar because, you know, you have the idiots coming out saying, this game doesn't look that good. You know, on the other hand, it's also nice to know that it does exist. Grand Theft Auto 6 will come out, will be announced one day. We don't have to fear that we're just gonna get 5 more and more and more. 6 will come eventually. Now leak Mario Kart 9. The media stopped covering this, but the last I saw was that the kid was arrested and remanded into a youth detention center. I hope he's doing okay. Because, you know, does he belong there? I don't know. Let's get into a more fun thing. The Steam Deck releases. Steam Deck comes out. Everybody loves it. Great success. It's cool to see Valve doing cool things that people actually enjoy. But anybody who thought this was going to be a Switch killer was like way in over their head, obviously. I mean, the market is just not the same. I don't even think this works as a motivator for Nintendo to upgrade their Switch because they're just... I don't think they care at all. Did they even notice that the Steam Deck came out? They were like, sorry, the Pokemon game just sold 5 billion copies in 3 days or whatever. What came out of the Steam Deck? What's that? Is that like a hot tub? But I've heard 0 bad things about the thing. It does everything you want it to do. It's got all the freedom of a PC. It runs everything well. It's got a decent battery life. Like, what more can you ask for? If you haven't checked out Aperture Desk Job, it is a free 20-minute game that'll really make you salivate for a Portal 3 that will probably never happen. It's great. You don't need a Steam Deck. I played it with a controller on PC. It works fine. It's just a nice little like, oh, remember when Valve made games? Check it out. That's a good segue to roll into a discussion about the Nintendo Switch Pro, the non-existent, ever-rumored Nintendo Switch Pro. Actually, this year, we didn't get a lot of rumors. The biggest rumor we got was that the Switch Pro existed, but was then canceled, and that's why there were so many rumors, and people were like, no, it's coming out, it's coming out, it's coming out. And then they were like, we swear we were telling the truth, it was coming out, it was, and then they canceled it, I swear. I believe them. It had to be happening. It would not be the first time Nintendo did something like this, so... Also, the OLED makes more sense, right? The OLED had to have started out as the Switch Pro. The Switch Pro was gonna be, boom, fancy OLED screen, new processor, the upgrade that we were hoping for, and then they were like, maybe that's too expensive to release in like 2021, you know, post-pandemic, not even post-pandemic at that point. Maybe they were like, let's do a $50 increase, just do the screen, and you know, let's work towards that next real console, and you know, the OLED is still a weird thing, like it's so not worth it, and I really thought that the new Zelda would come out with a new Switch, and we just got a leak that shows a Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Switch OLED model, and if that's coming out, it's basically confirmed now that we are really not getting anything until the next Nintendo console. I just hope Zelda runs on the thing. Remember Breath of the Wild, when you went into the Lost Woods, and the frames completely dropped and like it would barely move? That was 5 years ago. E3 2022, or lack thereof. With the pandemic winding down, everybody was expecting E3 to make its big comeback, and then they were just like, nah, we're not even gonna do online. It's gonna be more canceled than it was last year. And that was very disappointing. Dude, I love E3. Even when nothing is announced that I care about, it's so fun. Like a whole week of everybody showing stuff. I just love watching video games get announced. I don't know what it is. Apparently they're coming back this year. But the question is, does that matter? Jeff Keighley's still swooping in, trying to undercut them and do his own show. Sony has already stopped showing up before pandemic. Does anybody care anymore? Does anybody like E3 like I do? I like E3. And man, Summer Games Fest. Whew, that was rough this year. That was just a boring show. And then they ended their big Megaton final announcement was $70 remake of a game that was already remade. That was lame. Game Awards was good, Jeff. You made up for it a little bit with the Game Awards. But if they're really coming back, I mean, again, I genuinely love E3. If it's coming back this year, we get like, you know, the Xbox show on Sunday. We get an indie showcase in there. We get Nintendo doing a direct on Tuesday. What more can you ask for, really? Everyone loves a Nintendo Direct, no matter how many farming simulators we get. And my last story to discuss. Google Stadia dies. Oh, rip bozo. Packwatch 100. Man, to see Google just throw their hands up and leave is just hilarious. Years of watching articles go by about how they messed something up, they provided bad service, the Stadians got in trouble, all just boom, you know what, we're done. It wasn't worth it. We're not the future of gaming. Yeah, we could have told you that. It just feels great to see a multi-billion-dollar company think that they can just come on in and we'll treat them just like the big three. Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, Google. Because we're Google, we have money. We can do whatever we want. We'll just come on in here and everybody will respect us. No. The gamers respect nobody. Don't you forget. All their talk about this is a revolution, this is gonna change gaming, just to have a slow, painful death. Warms my heart. Let's do Facebook next. Gather around the fire and watch Meta burn together. I mean, gamers are strongest when we're just hating together, you know? But there is an actual bit of sadness coming out of this in the indie games that were talked into an exclusivity deal with Google. Some of them have come out to say we are in talks to move to other platforms. Some are desperately trying to find new publishers to get them onto other platforms. Some have said that they will go down with the ship, and there are some indie games on Stadia that will just vanish because it was exclusive to a cloud-based digital platform that is dying in, 3 years? Rip to those. Indie game development, it's probably not fun. Now we're gonna get into some games that I did play. Might have loved them, might have liked them, might have hated them. There's a couple of bad ones in there, just is everything I played worth talking about. And then we'll get into the top 3. Let's start with a game I talked about last year. A little free update called Inscryption. Kaycees mod. No, it's not a mod, it is officially an update, like an actual update to the game. You still haven't played Inscryption? You should get on that. The one complaint people had about Inscryption was that it didn't have enough of the early part where it's kind of like a roguelike before it turns into something else. And Kaycees mod is like a fully realized version of the roguelike part of Inscryption. It's got various challenges, difficulty levels, new cards, new abilities, things to unlock, and a true ending, and more lore. It's like all you can ask for, and it's free. Again, you still haven't played Inscryption? You should play Inscryption. One DLC to the next. Cuphead, the delicious last course. We waited 5 years for this. Cuphead is almost as old as the Nintendo Switch. So much waiting, and boy, is it small. It's not super small, but like 5 years, 5 years. And I understand why. This is just how it is. Cuphead wouldn't be Cuphead if it didn't take 5 years to draw all those cells. The real question is it worth it? Of course it's worth it. It's $8. They could have charged $15 and we all would have been in day one, right? $8. You get a solid chunk of new Cuphead bosses, a new minigame mode thing, new unlockable items, a new playable character, all stuff that is incorporated now into the main game, adding replay value to the already fantastic Cuphead. It just adds. It's everything you want in a DLC. Unless you were a fan of those platforming levels. They didn't add any of those. To be honest, I would have liked like one more of those. I liked those. Was I the only one who thought those were cool? They were really hard, but like they were cool. If you own Cuphead and you like Cuphead, you definitely bought this already. If by somehow it slipped you by, this is your reminder. Like a small Cuphead game was released. Like you should get it. You gotta get it. Ooh, let's take the biggest jump from small indie DLC to the most corporate game I could probably ever talk about. Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. Sometimes you buy a game purely for nostalgia's sake and you expect that that's enough to drive you through it. I couldn't last 5 hours playing this game. These Lego games have become such giant AAA monsters of games. I don't think people realize that. Did you know that Lego Star Wars Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga was announced at the same show that Elden Ring was announced, and it took longer to come out? Lego Star Wars game took longer than Elden Ring. Guys, you don't need to do that. You don't need to go that hard on this. You open this game and it spams you with walls of text, pop-ups stopping you to tell you that, did you know that if you push the right stick, you'll look around? Did you know that if you walk and then you press A on something, you'll interact with it? Just so many menus within menus, mini maps everywhere. Every single level is treated as its own open world with all the markers all over the place and the little thing, the bar at the top to point you in the right direction. This game made me want to go to bed. Like, this used to be a goofy little game about jumping around in Lego worlds. It was so simple, like, so overcomplicated it. I just want to go around collecting bricks. Now it's this massive open world action game that's barely really connected to the Lego part of it all. There's no charm anymore. I feel pretty boomery talking about it this way, but there's barely anything Lego about it. Some people understood that. Some people complained about the voice acting. Like, the jokes aren't the same. Putting your cringy little dialogue in there was not the same. It was actually funny back in the day. So they added this mumble mode where they sound like the original game, the way they mumbled in that game, where they say ma 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 ma. But that doesn't change the fact that all the jokes are based around dialogue. Nobody thought the original games were charming because they mumbled the lines. There weren't lines. It was charming because they didn't have dialogue and they had to rely on goofy visual gags to convey story and like commentary or parody or whatever. Now you just have a cutscene between two characters like any other game, but you could turn on a mode where you can't understand what they're saying and you just were like, wow, I have no idea what they just said. I don't know what's going on in the story. What was the point of mumble mode? It was like such a false promise. After a certain amount of time, I was just like, just turn off mumble mode so I can understand the stupid joke they wrote. It was actually tiring. It was like draining my energy just looking at this game and playing it for too long. I was like, this is not what I wanted. My friend made fun of me back in the day when Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens came out. He was like, don't buy that game. They're obviously just going to do a trilogy collection with all three of them. Don't waste your money. And here we are with the Skywalker Saga. The Lego Force Awakens was better. It was more like the original Lego games. It did have dialogue. It had talking, but the gameplay was level by level, collectathon type stuff. I had fun with that game. This is like not a Lego game anymore. They went too far. Who would have thought that Disney's, Warner Bros.'s, Lucasfilms' Lego trademark, Star Wars trademark, the Skywalker trademark Saga would have been a corporate nightmare? Apparently not me. Kingdom Hearts Dark Road. Yeah, this is the second half of a Kingdom Hearts mobile game, which is half of another mobile game that was already killed. It has been now updated to an offline state where you can just play the last few episodes of the story so it can wrap up, which technically makes it a 2022 game. Is it worth downloading? Nah, just look up the cutscenes on YouTube. You'll only be missing out on idle game gameplay, so yeah, sounds as good as it is. As for the story, honestly, the revelations didn't impress me that much. For a while, people were confused. They thought something had, I don't want to spoil it, but they basically confirmed who a character was, and then the creator came out and was like, no, we didn't, that's not what we intended, that's not true. And everyone was like, oh. It seems like all this was just setting up the next one, Kingdom Hearts Missing Link, which is due out sometime in 2022. Cool, can't wait. Kirby's Dream Buffet. I think I talked enough about this game. I maintain that it was a very fun racing game. Can't tell anybody to drop $15 on it now because, as I predicted, this game is just totally dead. No one's playing it anymore. If you buy this game now, you'll just be getting bots who are not very smart and not very fun to play against. Pretty sad, but hey, I guess I'm glad I got to play in its prime. The Pedestrian. You look at this game and you know what it's gonna be. A neat puzzle platformer with a fun graphical gimmick. I don't got much to say other than I checked it out with a $1 Game Pass month. It was neat. High on Life. Another Game Pass game. Couldn't finish it. I ran out of my Game Pass month and didn't want to spend money on an extra, so I just stopped. It takes a lot for me to get interested in trying a first-person shooter, and funny Rick and Morty voices game is not really enough. Gameplay was less generic than I was expecting. It very clearly took a lot of influence from the new Doom games, which do a lot for mobility, so there's a lot of cool moves, there's grappling hook, there's a little dash and stuff. It's cool, I guess. It's short, I think it's short enough for me to beat it if I ever do another Game Pass month. But it didn't hold my attention enough for me to be like, oh, I guess I better pay again to keep playing it. Nah, it was worth checking out, I guess. Okay, one last game to talk about before we get the top 3. Shovel Knight Dig. I'm a huge Shovel Knight fan. I'm a huge Nitrome fan. What a collab. I was so surprised to see these two coming together and excited for what this game was going to be. The game's okay. This is a Shovel Knight roguelike, which I think misses the point of what makes roguelikes fun a little bit. 2 reasons why people like roguelikes: the variety and the weird character building, or the item synergy, or whatever you want to call it. There's not enough variety in this game. Every time you start a run, you are starting on the same mushroom-themed World 1-1 thing. Then there's like 5 more levels, and then that's the end. I never once felt like I created a really cool and unique character build that I'll never see again through luck and random chance. It didn't hook me, it didn't make me addicted like The Binding of Isaac or anything even close. Whenever I managed to do a successful run, it wasn't because I concocted some kind of weird mishmash of items that made me overpowered. It was because I just had enough health upgrades so I could take the hits. It's like the most boring way to play a roguelike, but that was the only way I ever beat it, really. So you can only really have one item at a time, one usable item. The passive upgrades don't change you that much. You can have a follower. There's only like 3 types of followers. None of them do anything crazy. And that's really what got me. There's nothing crazy. A roguelike game needs crazy, doesn't it? It needs to go off the rails, needs to go nutso. It needs to be like, hey guys, look at this, sharing a clip to my friends, like, look at this. I turned into a giant laser and destroyed this boss in 2 hits. Isn't that cool? Like, that's to me what's appealing about roguelikes. This felt like just like a normal Shovel Knight game without a lot of cool level design because it's procedurally generated. There is a whole series of steps and weird things you have to do in order to unlock the true ending and get like the ultimate final run. I didn't even do it. I just got bored and didn't do it. That's not really me. I don't do that, especially with like cool indie games, Shovel Knight games. I don't do that. So yeah, it wasn't really for me. I would not recommend it if you're into roguelikes, but there is something there if you're a Shovel Knight fan. It is an official prequel. You get to see reoccurring characters, you get more lore, and also the Shovel Knight world is really fun and bright and colorful and nice. But honestly, you could have just made like a little mini platformer and it probably would have been better. Sorry, Nitrome. I still love you. Alright, we've reached the top 3. Can you guess based on the games I haven't talked about yet? If you've been following the channel, you probably know what's coming on this list, at least 2 of them. Number 3. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Yeah, good. What am I gonna write an essay on this? No, I already wrote an essay. You can watch all of my thoughts on Kirby and the Forgotten Land already. It's a little anticlimactic, but this is only number 3, alright? At least what I can add to the conversation is looking at this game retroactively, way past all the hype, almost a year after it came out. At the end of that essay, I talked about maybe some future update content that would have made the game better. Not that it was bad, it's my number 3 game of the year, but I was really kind of expecting to get some cool Nintendo DLC, because Nintendo sometimes does DLC really right. So I was excited. We got Kirby's Dream Buffet. We just got a separate racing game entirely. Not a single update to this game. I was kind of disappointed. And in terms of Kirby's future, we already have announced a remake of a game that's going to cost more than the original, just like The Last of Us, $60 Wii game that looks like it's barely adding new content. Kirby remakes are usually pretty nice with adding stuff. This looks like it's adding like a copy ability and that's it. Oh, that's so lame. So yeah, I am slightly disappointed in what has been immediately following Kirby and the Forgotten Land, but that doesn't change the fact that the game is wonderful, and I would recommend it to anybody who has been out of the Kirby loop for a long time. It's great, it's lovely from start to finish, but it is very clearly the beginning of real 3D Kirby potential. I still think it's the third best Kirby game of all time, and fittingly, the third best game of 2022. This is not a Kingdom Hearts song. This is actually from another beautiful, joyful, incredibly satisfying RPG experience about rabbits. I feel so bad for the developers of this game. They poured their heart and soul into every aspect of this game, only for people to shrug it off because it has the minions of video games in it. Just listen to any interview about this game and you'll hear just how excited and honored they are that Nintendo allowed them to work with their most beloved IP to make an RPG game that they've dreamed of. And then after that they have to mention, oh yeah, also I'm honored to work on the rabbits. Just because if they didn't say that, it would look bad.
なんかこうすごいそんな本当にすごいそのマリオってすごい世界的なもう認知されてるすごいキャラクターだと思うんですけれども、勝手に私の方から親しみを感じているので、なんかまた一緒にできて嬉しいねっていう気持ちで、はい。
If someone had told me in 1995 when I started working on video games that I'd be working with Mario and some of Koji Kondo's music, because he's a Jedi Master, I'm just a Padawan, you know, like I would never have believed it.
I mean, can you think of a more undeserving crossover in history? The Super Mario himself and the minions of games that killed a video game icon only to shovel out crappy shovelware games and then go nowhere after that. Yeah, those two are gonna cross over, yeah. But this is my chance to tell you, regardless of all of that, this game is amazing. I just ranked it higher than one of the best Kirby games ever. Every minute I'm wandering around this world, I just have a big old smile on my face. There's so much charm in all the background, and the graphics are so pretty and nice, and then the music, of course, is amazing. There's so much freedom in the tactics combat to change your strategy on the fly and pull off these satisfying saves when you thought it was all over. Every character was reworked from the last game to have a more unique, class to themselves, with their own skill tree and their own special moves and all that. There are so many puzzles and fun side quests, all with great rewards. It's one of those games you 100% complete because you just want to. You just love the game, not because you feel some weird compulsion to do it or you want to see a true ending. No, it's just because I want to do all the side quests because they're all fun. I should be mad that this game has a day one $30 season pass, but I'm not, because that just means I'm gonna get a bunch more really cool DLC. They're not selling you skins. I mean, there are pre-order skins or whatever, but the DLC that's coming out is gonna be substantial actual content that I'm super excited to play. I'm happy to pay more. That's not like me. And I rarely bring up soundtracks because I don't really feel like I'm good at talking about them without saying just, it sounds really good, right? But I just have to mention the team they got. We have the composer of Kingdom Hearts, or if you're not a Kingdom Hearts fan, the composer of Super Mario RPG, working together with the composer of Banjo-Kazooie and DK64, working together with the composer of Ori and the Blind Forest for some reason. Guys, this will never happen again. We have to appreciate this godlike team that's working on the Rabbids game. This should be on a list of things that are not allowed to happen because it would be too powerful. Now, are the rabbits annoying? Yes. Are there a lot of modernized, cringy jokes that don't belong in a Mario game? Yes. Am I angry that Rosalina is not playable, but Rabbid Rosalina is? Yes. Does this game have that classic Ubisoft messy UI? Yes, but in my opinion, none of that is enough to bring this game down from a 9 out of 10. If you're one of those people who whine about Paper Mario not having the same soul it once had, or if you desperately wish Mario and Luigi RPGs would come back to life, I'm with you, man. But also, there's a really nice Mario RPG right here. And we're still getting 3 big DLCs worth of stuff over the course of this entire year. So I'm hyped for that. If you didn't get it, I've already seen it on sale for $30. It's gonna be super cheap. Pick it up. If you've been on the fence, if you like RPGs, if you like Mario RPGs, get this game. Show Nintendo that we want games like these. Because when they do it right, it's so good. Once in a blue moon, you'll play a game that reminds you why video games are so damn cool. Sometimes you get lost in the sauce. Sometimes you get hung up on the industry drama. Sometimes you'll go on a rant about how the Lego game is not the same as it once used to be. But then you'll take a chance on something new, something real. A game injected with pure passion from a small team over so many years of hard work. And it'll be better than anything you've played in the last few years. You may have crossed paths with Tunic during some E3 presentation as far back as 2017. You may have thought, that looks neat. And you'd be right. But Tunic is much more than it seems on its Zelda-esque, Souls-like surface layer. This is one of those games you should know nothing about before going into. So that being said, I'm not going to spoil anything beyond the basic concept of the game. But even that deserves to be discovered on its own. So if you plan on playing Tunic, stop watching now. If you don't plan on playing Tunic, maybe I could convince you that you should. One look at Tunic will tell you it's an indie game inspired by Zelda 1. True. Upon further inspection, you'll see dodge rolling, mid-battle potion drinking, and resting by the fire, all things that would lead you to describing it as yet another Souls-like. But like the original Demon's Souls, Tunic takes these popular mechanics and changes everything around them, ultimately using them as hooks to bring you into this game's own unique rabbit hole of ideas. Your first steps of actually playing the game lead you to signs with an indecipherable language, and soon after you'll find a piece of paper, page 10 of some amount, with even more of this language, but also just enough English for you to interpret what's going on. A list of areas you probably have to explore, recognizable symbols of probably items that you will need, as well as multiple references to other pages you don't have. Tunic takes the concept of a video game instruction booklet and bases the entire game around trying to read it. Not just for fun, but because you desperately want to know what's going on. You'll find things in the world that just don't make sense to you. Why was that treasure chest already open before I got here? What are these pen markings in the booklet? I just picked up an item. I think, what did it do? And with every single piece of paper picked up, another dopamine rush of moments of clarity as a question gets answered, usually followed up with another question. Aside from usable items, there's very little change that comes to your character's ability, and so Tunic reveals that it's not just a new kind of Zelda/Dark Souls, it's also a new kind of Metroid. In a Metroidvania game, you will find a red door, and move on as you wait for the missile upgrade that lets you through. But Tunic is a Metroidvania of knowledge. When you find out how to open the red door, you realize you didn't need any special ability or item. You probably could have actually opened that door all that time ago if you just tried hard enough. You feel your third eye opening when playing this game. It makes you rethink everything. You start taking shots in the dark about what you can and can't do, and sometimes you'll succeed. If this game's main goal was to capture the magic of being a kid and playing The Legend of Zelda NES for the first time, no internet, just instruction book, experiencing the wonder of exploring a world for the first time, it achieves that. But it doesn't have to be specifically The Legend of Zelda on NES. It could be any game that you played as a kid, that one game that connected with you, that just filled your head with all sorts of imagination. This game succeeds in bringing you right back to that feeling. It's Zelda without being old and crusty. It's Dark Souls without making you want to die while playing it. It's Metroid from a brand new angle. It's Fez, except you can actually figure it all out by yourself. And it's also one more game that I don't want to say what it is, because it would tell you too much. Because everything you learn about this game will recontextualize your experience playing it, which is why you should know nothing going into it. All these games get blended together into one massive puzzle that you feel like a genius for solving, but really it's just because the game is genius. I feel bad saying as much as I said already, so I'm gonna stop there. Believe me, I could go on and on. You know, there were a lot of games I missed this year, but somehow I feel like even if I played them all, nothing would rob the #1 spot from this little game called Tunic. It is simply a masterpiece. That's 2022, and now I'll take a brief moment to look ahead to 2023, because ladies and gentlemen, this is the year we finally get our hands on The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. A game we once thought might come out fairly quickly as a Majora's Mask style asset reusing sequel has now taken 6 years to come out. 5.5 if you want to be nice, since the last DLC for Breath of the Wild came out in December 2017, but anyway, I can't believe we only just learned the title of this game. At this point in the Breath of the Wild news cycle, we had an entire E3 dedicated to just that game. Remember that? They dumped so much information on us. I'm kinda hyped about how little we know. I'm sure we're very close to some Nintendo Direct blowout about it, and things are gonna hype up real soon, but savor this moment. A new Zelda is coming this year, and maybe a new Pikmin too? I say maybe because they barely showed anything and it feels like it might be delayed, but oh my god, we actually know about a Pikmin game and it's actually gonna come out. Like, that's huge. Cyberpunk 2077, from what I hear, is actually playable now and is getting a huge DLC expansion, so I'm happy for all the fans who stuck with the game. The long-awaited Resident Evil 4 remake is finally happening. Starfield, the first real Bethesda game we've had in like 7 years, is also coming out. The indie game I have my eye on most is Sea of Stars, a Chrono Trigger-inspired RPG which is somehow a prequel to the wacky, goofy ninja platformer The Messenger, also featuring one of the composers for Chrono Trigger. That's a hard flex there, I can't wait. And lastly, how could I forget Final Fantasy 16? And maybe Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the year my 2+ year journey may finally come to an end. Whether I really get through the series or not, I hope you stick with me as I hopefully cross the finish line. Ooh, because there's still a good chunk left to go. That being said, I'm gonna get probably right back to playing one of those games. Oh man, I just realized Zelda is gonna be a huge problem with that, huh? Zelda's gonna be a big problem. Well, I better get going.